Hi, my name is Carol Moore, and I am the writer stroke performer of the experience of being.
Great. Thank you, Carol, and thank you for joining us today. You were programmed in GTF 2020 with the experience of being, which we were really excited to have. Generally speaking, a lot of our work is geared at kind of 18 to 35 audience. So being able to kind of gear something at people both that age group and older was really exciting for us, and we were really looking forward to it. Obviously we were very disappointed that we weren't able to have a festival, but this is as close as we can get at the moment, so it'll have to do. Tell us a bit about the experience of being, what it is, where it came from, and the partnership with An Grianon and how that all came about.
The experience of being is a reaction by me to ageism and to negative stereotypes of older people, but more specifically women. 3 years ago, I became 60, and when those become sort of milestones, those big birthdays, your 40th, your 50th, your 60th, and 60 years is a long time to be on the planet, and you sometimes wonder, how you got here so quickly. Because in myself, and it's funny when you ask older people what age they are, and I did a project alongside the writing of the play with University of the Third Age, and you would ask them, well, what age are you inside, and you get anything from 18 to 30. Yeah. And that's absolutely how I feel. I don't feel I'm 63, but when I reached my 60th birthday and I began to reflect on where I was in my career, it became obvious that a lot of work was drying up. There weren't the same roles in the theatre, even though I have been wearing wigs from the age of 40 and playing women up to, believe it or not, 93 years old. Suddenly, when I reach 60 and I think, okay, I have some life experience to play these parts, those roles don't seem to be available. So that was the professional side of it. And personally, yes, once I began to pay attention, I realized there is a level of invisibility when you're older. And the ageism comes from all sorts of things. There's a lot of negative language around age. But what is really problematic is it's one of the isms that people have normalized. And you hear it all the time, and people think it's funny. And I think we all should be challenging it. I use the example of a number of years ago when I moved to Bangor, where I now live. I used to go to a male hairdresser, and I realized he was calling me and everybody else girlfriend or girl, or which initially one might think is quite endearing. And then when you actually analyze it, you're going, well, why aren't you using my name? I don't call you boy. I don't call you boyfriend. Yeah. So there's a lot of negative connotations around it. So the play was exploring all that, examining all that, and it is about the character Kathy, who has just had her 60th birthday, It's a memory play. She begins in the bathroom and then suddenly realizes, oh dear, what did I do the night before? And so everything is a journey from her arriving at this dinner party, where there are 3 friends she knows and a new partner of one of her friends. And as all dinner parties go, the conversations go in all sorts of directions. And so it goes back in time, really from her childhood up to the present day. But what it's targeting and focusing on is, even as children, as young girls, as teenagers, as young adults, the stories she goes into are about power, and the power not being with her as a girl, as a young woman, as an older woman. But eventually she gets an opportunity to find a target for ageism and for that language. And so out of a play which suggests it's quite negative about age, it spins around. And when she comes back into the bathroom, you realize something has changed for her, and she realizes that she can be empowered by challenging it herself.
It sounds really interesting and really very important, because, as you said, ageism is something that we all need to fight against, mainly because it is something that comes to us all. You know, hopefully we all get the chance to age, and particularly I think in an age when rights and human rights and women's rights and the rights of minorities are becoming really coming, and very rightly so, to the forefront. It is very important to look at the rights of the older members of our society, and we've seen that quite starkly and quite terrifyingly, really, in and around the COVID-19, and how directly that impacts people of who are that bit older, and how much, when we can't see them and we can't interact and we can't be together, how much that is missing in our society, and how much we need the older members of our society. So I think it's a really important topic. But as you said, the fact that the play comes at it from a perspective that looks negative, and then pulls out the power and pulls out the positives and the strength in it, I think it's a really exciting one. So I hope we'll get a chance to see it at some point in the future. The piece was developed with An Grianán, I believe. Am I correct in that?
Well, initially it wasn't developed with An Grianán. I just decided I wanted to write.
Okay.
I didn't know if I could even find my voice. It took 2 years.
Yeah.
Really crystallize what I wanted to say about it. And as we've been discussing, so it didn't come across as a rant. It has to be, it's a play, it's a drama, and certainly there are points of conflict, but at the same time, you're taking people on a journey and you need to entertain them to keep them with you on that journey. It's interesting, I did feedback sheets on a number of occasions, the opening night and when I performed in An Grianán, and some people said, oh, I thought it was going to be a bit of a rant and a woman drinking a lot of alcohol and all of that sort of stuff. But, you know, we went through the gamut of emotions with the character. A lot of older women saying, yes, this is my life on stage. Why are we not talking about this? It's not being discussed, and it is not being discussed. On the opening night, I had a panel discussion with a representative from AGNI and Baroness May Blood, who I mention in the little thing you got me to fill in.
Yeah.
About a living person I admire. And May Blood began her life in the mills as a mill girl.
Okay.
And ended up in the House of Lords.
Yeah.
And she talks all the time when she was a shop steward and in meetings with other male union representatives about how she wasn't taken seriously because she was a woman, even though she was doing the same job as her male counterparts. And that's just one example, and that was her, you know, I would imagine she was probably in her 40s or 50s when that was happened. So when you're looking for it, you see it everywhere. I don't think I've answered the question there, have I?
No, but you made some very important points. Absolutely. I think, you know, and the calling it a rant, or kind of calling avoiding it being a rant, or the expectation that it's a rant, I think is a very interesting one, because there are limited roles and limited expectations on women the older you get, as you indicated at the beginning. And I think they're often shoehorned into specific roles of the wise old woman, or the angry middle-aged woman, or, you know, the woman with the drinking problem. And none of those are accurate and accurate representations of the nuance and the complexity of every human being. So I find it really interesting that an audience member said they were expecting a rant and then were so surprised by something completely different. Because, as you said, it is so important when you do have a message of sorts to be bringing people along and entertaining them through something that it is art, but the art can have a message as well in a way that is both entertaining and important.
Age out of the equation. Every person is nuanced.
Yes.
And complex and funny and conflicted and emotional, and that doesn't change because you get a certain age, but there is an assumption that people's personalities and character traits somehow fade with age. They don't. If anything, they're even more complex because they have all of that life experience. Oh, I've just remembered the question. Like relationship with Greenan.
Yes.
Okay, so I spent 2 years on the play. I couldn't get anybody to produce it in the north. I felt my only option was to apply to the Arts Council in Northern Ireland for a major individual artist award. That award is 15,000. They only give out 4 a year. So I knew it was going to be very competitive, and I knew if I didn't get it, the play would not be produced. Thankfully, I got it, and that 15,000 was really the basis for paying the fees for it into production. The relationship with Angrina and Patricia McBride comes from the fact that I was one of the founders of Charabank Theatre Company in 1983 to 95, and Patricia McBride was one of our administrators. And Patricia goes on to wonderful things after that. She left us and went to the Lyric Theatre, and then I think she's been in Angrina about 20 years. And I was having a conversation with her because I've been interviewing people connected with the company because I'm writing a book in Charabank. And in the course of that conversation, I began to talk about the play. and said I was struggling to find somebody who would produce it. And it was really out of that conversation that she said, well, let's see what we can do. She invited the play up for a reading, and after I thought we might have got somebody who might have done a co-pro with her, but she was very supportive of the project. And once the play opened in Belfast, that's when Anne Greenan came in and took the play over when it went on tour, and was picking up then this year to Galway and other venues around town.
So the piece, I hope, is kind of still in the offing at some point. We'll get to see it, that it hasn't been squashed by the pandemic, because I think it is a really vital conversation that we need to be having, and we need to be having it in our sitting rooms and on our stages. Absolutely. Tell me about what you're doing at the moment. You're working in film.
Well, like all of us, we don't know when theatres are ever going to open again, and those opportunities are not going to be there for us in the foreseeable future. And, you know, we could be talking a year, we could be talking 2 years. I mean, live theatre is in crisis at the moment, I think, because even if producers or managers of venues are very clever about what they program, how do they make it financially viable to have 50, 60 people in a 400-seater? I can't see, I would love to see that working, but I struggle to see how that might work. So just before lockdown happened, between January and the beginning of March, I had done a project with Ageism, who partnered Kibosh, which is the theatre company in the North area I work with a lot. And we got funding, again, from the Arts Council, but from the Older People's Fund.
Okay.
To, well, I designed the project that we would go into 3 dementia day centres that were run by Ageism and deliver a creative project about the 40s and 50s. So there were a number of artists involved, including myself, although I designed the project. I did the reminiscence. We had an art person who came in, and then we had a singer and a movement person who taught them songs from the 40s and 50s. And then we had a sharing event where everybody, including their families, came along. They sang the songs they had learnt. We saw their artwork. It was distributed everywhere, and had a wonderful day. And I just find it very inspiring working with service users who have dementia. And to have a personal friend who has dementia and actually went into a home during lockdown, and that is completely confusing for him. So as soon as that happened, I began to think about what must it be like for their spouses or family members who are carers, and they don't have any respite now. They are in lockdown with a person who doesn't really understand why they are in lockdown. So I asked a writer, would she write a piece for me that I would perform as a person with dementia? And we very quickly decided that her carer would be her son, and we thought it would be a different dynamic rather than a daughter or a spouse. Look, I think there are other challenges when it's the child of the person, but also a male child. And just as we were beginning to talk about that and she was researching it, a fund by Future Screens. Future Screens NI is one of 8 hubs in the UK that do research in the creative industries to really create more jobs in the creative industries. I hadn't even heard of it. And they had partnered with Northern Ireland Screens, Queen's University and Ulster University. And they were offering £5,000 to 20 successful applicants to create something that was responding to COVID-19. Some of them are creative projects, some of them are education projects. I think there's a whole range, and there's a number of successful theatre companies and individuals, but a lot of companies who I haven't heard from. And so I get to make this film. So I'm essentially producing the film for a tiny amount of money. We had the writer, Julie Dukovich. The director is Paula McFetridge from Kabosh. Mm-hmm. I'm playing the character Rita, and Darren Franklin is playing my son. So we had our first Zoom meeting where Julie began to talk a little about the script. We'll be getting the first draft soon. I haven't seen any of it, but Julie decided that the character should have rapid onset dementia. Mm-hmm. It's called FTD, frontotemporal, and unlike other forms of dementia where the memory is the first thing to go, in this type of dementia it is behavior changes. So the person can behave in a way that she wouldn't have behaved beforehand. So they can be very aggressive, okay. Both verbally and physically. They can have hallucinations. And sometimes, yes, the memory probably is the last thing to go. And she chose this because it is a short film. Mm-hmm. And I suppose it gives an opportunity to show explosions of emotion. Mm-hmm. And even though we're not directly linking this to COVID-19, when a family caregiver is looking after someone with dementia, it can feel like lockdown every day.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be filming it in September, and we'll see what sort of platforms we can put it out on.
Well, gosh, even hearing you speak about it, it has a huge amount of power in it. I can kind of already anticipate the strength of the emotion in it. Yeah. And it is something that, there's been a bit of talk about carers and that in the media the past while, but it's something that really, I think, unless you know someone who is a carer or are a carer yourself, you can't comprehend the strength it requires and the difficulty that is involved, and the love that comes so forcefully behind it all. It's such an important role that so many people have in our society, and yet they are largely, I would say, forgotten, certainly neglected in terms of support. But definitely I think it's something that you don't think about unless you have to.
Well, they are a resource, but they are unpaid.
Yeah.
And I think what we want the film to show, it's the difficulties of the carer, mm-hmm. as well as the person going through dementia, and particularly for a young person who sees their life on hold. Mm-hmm. And I imagine there is a lot of anger and frustration that comes with that, as well as the love.
Of
And
course.
you hear stories all the time of carers just locking themselves in the bathroom for 10 minutes because they're having their own meltdown at, you know, maybe the person they're caring for has had a meltdown themselves. And so there's this seesaw dynamic going on in the household. It at the present time, it must be unbearable.
It's really quite unimaginable, I think, unless you are actually in that position. How have you been finding the Zoom creating process, or, you know, the creating in lockdown process?
Well, what's actually interesting about the fund is part of getting the fund is for us to document what we feel about it. So I'm recording the Zoom meetings, and I've asked the other artists involved to document, not in any big way, but where they're struggling with the Zoom meetings. Or I mean, I think as things start to ease, we can actually be in the same room for rehearsals. Initially, we thought we'd have to do those via Zoom. And I was struggling to know how a person who has limited language, I actually attempt to do this via Zoom, but hopefully that won't be the case. But with social distancing protocols, we can be in the same room. I didn't know Zoom existed until the lockdown. I'm sure.
Honestly, I think you most of us didn't know. They seem to have exploded.
Yeah. So although a lot of people were inviting me to do Zoom meetings, I actually hadn't done one myself. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a test one with the writer to make sure that I actually knew what I was doing. And then last week we had the meeting with the four of us, and we were all in our best behaviour. I think as things start to hot up and everybody has plenty to say, it can be a bit more challenging.
Yeah.
But what's been great is that Future Screens are linking me with, because they're aligned to universities, there's a whole level of expertise out there. Hopefully I'm going to get an academic who will come on board and who specialises in dementia. And then I've also had a Zoom meeting with an organisation that develops and helps other creative bodies to develop immersive technologies. So I'm suddenly being introduced to all these really fantastic people and organizations out there who I didn't know anything about. But before the lockdown, you know, we've had to just put ourselves out there, and putting ourselves out there means that we've been able to tap in to an awful lot of things that are going out there that beforehand we wouldn't have known about.
So it's a positive experience so far in terms of creativity, which is great. I've really enjoyed chatting to you today, Carol. I'm really intrigued about all of the work that you're currently doing, and I'll be keeping my eyes peeled for the film. Okay, give us the name of the film, or does it have a name?
The film is called Gone.
Gone. Okay, great. So I'll be keeping my eyes peeled for that when hopefully it materializes. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really nice. And best of luck with all of the work that you're doing, all of the important work that you're doing. And I hope we'll be in touch and possibly see you in Galway sometime in the future.
I would love to be in Galway sometime in the future. I look forward to it.
So do we.